Some people just cannot get over the fact that Supergirl did not perform well at the box office. And the intended audience, if it was women, didn't show up. But that's okay. This Huffington Post article by Kenneth Williams Jr. is here to tell us about how toxic the manosphere is and how he feels safe with female superheroes. I'm a woman and I'm going to tell you what I think about it, Kenneth, because, I've got tits and I have better opinion when it comes to feminism things than you should have. But, it's all about how he identifies. And of course, I could have just guessed it. He is a late millennial. And it's no offense to a lot of millennials out there, because I know a lot of you guys aren't like this. But usually when you find someone who's going to use these buzz terms and they're politically pickled and they're just so over the top ridiculous, they're almost always either a very early Gen Z person or more often than not a late millennial, early 30s, because they've been the ones who have been bitching and screaming the last 15 years. That's almost guaranteed. So we're going to talk about this and buckle up, because I've got thoughts. So before we get into any further, please like and subscribe. If you do, I'll give you a woohoo. I can't wait to be, mansplained by Kenneth here. I'm also supposed to ask you to please make sure you check out more.clownfishtv.com if you want some more stuff that isn't found here. I know we're going to be recording a couple things to go up there this week. Also, I'm supposed to let you know, if you listen to podcasts, you can find us as a podcast with Clownfish TV Podcast, pretty much wherever you find podcasts. So if you'd rather listen to it that way, you can do so. So back to this article. And here we go. This manosphere term is this new thing they're trying to use. It's basically misogynist and incel. It's the replacement term for it. I looked it up because they keep using it. It's an umbrella term for male-centered internet communities, because don't you know, if anything is male-centered, it's bad. Because there's a lot, because men, are just, you should be by themselves, not have any communities whatsoever. It's always about, toxic straight white men. That's what it always is. You're never allowed to have, groups that you feel seen in. They focus on masculinity and men's issues, because that's bad. How dare you go to a group that talks about men's issues? And they have a strong opposition to feminism. No, you guys think that's what they mean. That isn't always what they mean. Sometimes it is what it means, but you're using it as a very umbrella term. If you're using it specifically for those groups of people and those types of YouTubers and that, then yes, you can say the manosphere. But what I've seen you guys do repeatedly is use it to mean any guy who is straight that I don't agree with. And that's basically what happens. They're anti-feminist, strict gender roles, red pill ideology, the men's rights activists, again, incels, right there. There you go. Incels. This is what it's about, replacing the stupid term. So instead of saying, you're a misogynist, sexist incel, it's the manosphere. Okay? That's what they do. Basically, any guy who I don't agree with is manosphere. Now, in its proper usage, it could mean the extreme toxic versions of masculinity. I would say the female equivalent would be the bitchverse, which, seems to be Blue Sky and some other places. But it should only target certain people, but you're using it as an umbrella term to mean anybody you don't agree with. And that's what Kenneth here does. So we're going to look at this article on the Huffington Post opinion pieces here. Independent journalism, my ass. I'll be honest too. There's something called a spacebar. Superman was never really a hero to me. Of course he wasn't. I've never subscribed to pop culture's attempt to indoctrinate generations of boys into a lackluster, misleading concept of masculinity and power. Bet you didn't like He-Man either. What was your idea of male hero then? I would love to know. As an American millennial, shocker, I've been socialized to observe so many superheroes' performative masculinity. There's nothing wrong with, there are traits that are more masculine. There's traits that are more feminine. There's nothing wrong with it. Superman would not be an example of toxic masculinity by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of male superhero characters that are not toxic masculinity by any stretch of the imagination. Just being a muscular man and strong doesn't mean that you're toxic. Okay? I'm tired of this idiocy that men being men makes them terrible people. There are toxic characteristics and toxic things that men do, but most men don't do those things. And then pointing out that, I feel like as the man of the family, that I feel like these are my roles is not a bad thing either. Like at our house, it's kind of split. Like there's a lot of things that are considered masculine roles that I do. And Neon's fine with it, and there's things that he does that I couldn't do because I'm not strong enough, and that's fine. And there's things that are like he cooks really well. He can cook. He's a fantastic cook. That would be considered a female gender role, and he does it too. When it came to parenting, we were equally present. Actually, he was probably a better parent than I was, and if we're being honest, and he's always been more fair and probably impatient than I would be. And that would be considered a female role. So it's just how your dynamic works in each family. It's all different. I mean, yeah, it was always pushed back in the day that, men don't cry and stuff. I mean, a lot of you guys that are our age, probably, millennials, were told the same thing. It's bullshit. I mean, if you feel like you need to cry, cry. It's okay. If you don't want to cry in front of other people, then don't cry in front of other people. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't. But you're allowed to do those kind of things because he brings that up here in a minute. But that hasn't been the way it's been for years and years and years. Okay. He's talking about the muscles, the sex appeal, the stoic exterior. Hey, as a woman, I think some of the times the stoic exterior and the sex appeal is great. But I could tell early on that it wasn't authentic to you. It might be authentic to somebody else. You're painting it with a broad brush about your perspective on it, not considering to somebody else that might be authentic to them. But if it's authentic to you, you're part of the manosphere and you're the problem, according to this dipshit. Well, I can relate to Superman's feelings of societal alienation and imposter syndrome. That's about it. I should have been more inspired by his ability to bench press buildings or his rivalry with the sinister Lex Luthor, but that did nothing for me either. Okay, and that's you. And that's a very fair thing for you. But you can't tell everybody else is toxic because it does something for them. That's not fair. You don't know these people. As a child, I was far more impressed by his cousin and peer, Kara Zor-El. Where? Because quite frankly, she had comic books here and there, but she wasn't like a super important character that was front and center. They had the Supergirl movie that would probably been way before you were born, and the Supergirl TV show, which would have been maybe when you were in your 20s, but not when you were a child. I find that I kind of think that's a little bit BS on that one. Or Supergirl, and some thoughtful iteration Superwoman. My queer inner child, oh, shocker there, relished the opportunity to learn more about a superhero's emotional strength was just as resonant as her physical capabilities. Look, if you are more emotionally, strength and resonant in that, and then your physical capabilities, that is fine. That is a valid thing. The difference is you're trying to paint people who don't agree with you as manosphere. All right? You're allowed to feel that way, but they're allowed to feel the way they feel too. I'm tired of this idiocy. After watching the most recent iteration of Supergirl starring Millie Alcock, I can't help but reflect on why so many queer men like myself have found refuge in the strength and wit of women superheroes. Well, I'm glad that you did. But women are strong in different ways than men, that's true. And that's reflected in a lot of these characters. And you're allowed to like them. But there's a lot of queer men who don't like them too. And of course you do. You are the stereotypical male feminist that I would expect to write this article. Now at 32, shocker, like I said, late millennial, early Gen Z, late millennial, I can vividly recall the unspoken expectations, what it means to be a man. Being told that he couldn't have a pink stuffed animal on a family trip to Cedar Point. Cedar Point's awesome. Being told not to cry. I agree. That's bullshit. That happened a lot. A camp counselor called him the F word out of frustration when he was 10. It probably had nothing to do with you being like that, other than the fact that it was an insult people used. Not saying it's right, but people use it all the time. They use, the R word all the time too as an insult. It is what it is. I mean, I don't think it was because that they knew that you were that, unless you were very, blatantly so. But I think it was more to do with the fact that, you were driving him crazy and he just called you that. And I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that doesn't necessarily mean it was intended as you think. But I do agree that she shouldn't have said that. I thought somebody ridiculously rigid guardrails on masculinity. Not really. I look at it this way, there's a lot of women who are, more masculine than feminine, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of women who are very, very considered feminine, stereotypical feminine, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are men who are very, stereotypical masculine, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there are men who are more effeminate and aren't the stereotypical man, and there's nothing wrong with that. The universe is large and vast. There's all kinds of people across the world. And what is considered Super masculine here might not be considered super masculine someplace else. This is awful black and white. And it's not, it's really, the world is in grays. And you just wait till you find your people, which it sounds like you did. All right. Blah, blah, blah. I said, talking about how she defied faux tenets of valor, disguised as strength, and she was heroic as her male counterparts, and she just happened to be a woman. Well, yeah, I like characters that are good characters that just happen to be a woman. Unfortunately, that was not the case with this movie. She was not a good character in this movie. She was not a very good Supergirl in this movie. Millie Alcock is not, I'm not talking about the actress being a bad Supergirl. I'm saying what they gave her to work with was dog shit, and it failed. And you know who it failed with too, Kenneth? Women. Women who you are going on how you aspire up to these women, and you want to be more, you're more of a male feminist, and the character was made for women, and the women didn't show up because it wasn't what they wanted to see, and it didn't look good to them, and the movie did shit. And that's the honest truth. And it has nothing to do with the manosphere. It means women didn't show up for the movie. All right? Because it was made for women and they didn't come either. Actually, you know who came more than anybody? Men. So there you go. Those toxic male manosphere people showed up for the movie. Supergirl's origin story is at its core. Sees her entire world flipped upside down. Yeah. Same with, she was older, but same with, Clark. She remembers it more because she was older, and she's actually older than him. They kind of changed that in the movies. She's forced to navigate a new environment that's unwelcoming to her and underestimates her abilities solely because she's a woman. Never mind that her superpowers mirror her male cousins, and in most continuities, her experience wielding them supersedes his. Of course, you say that. Supergirl is still undermined because she doesn't represent the impossible doctrine of manhood that only exists to comfort male fragility. Well, if you're a toxic, strong man, I think the male fragility I'm hearing is more coming from you. You're the one who seems, fragile in yourself and in what it means for you to be a man. You're the one who I'm hearing fragility from, Kenneth. Also, Supergirl, she's undermined because she doesn't represent the impossible doctrine of manhood. Supergirl, you do understand comics predominantly skews male. It is what it is. Some women read them, but most of the audience is male. And superhero comics especially, most of the audience is male. So when they're writing Supergirl comics, they're writing them for the audience, which is mostly male. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I don't know what else to tell you. Most people don't have problems with strong female characters. They don't have problems with good, strong female characters. And this iteration was not those things. All right? It is what it is, Kenneth. As a gay man, I know this dynamic well. Well, as a woman, I think I know it better. But okay, I'm all too familiar with the pitfalls that accompany the perilous journey of self-discovery while fighting for the opportunity to be taken seriously as my straight peers because I refuse to fake a persona to accommodate male superiority. All I'm hearing is you're a fragile baby. No one tells you have to, you have to change to be what they are and fake persona to be what you think they want. All of us out here, I've been in a position where we felt we had to fake who we are to fit in. We've all been there. Help, Kenneth. When I was in 6th grade for no reason whatsoever, for like 3 months, all the kids in my class stopped talking to me. I was the chubby redhead kid. So it could have been because of that. They also did to other kids, but not as long as me. And when that happened, I still talked to those kids. So they weren't alone. But when it came to me, I was alone and no one would talk to me because they didn't want to be bullied again. But you know what? So I do understand, the pitfalls and, not taken seriously and fake personas and all that shit. I get it. I've been there. A lot of us have been there. It's not a gender thing. Okay. It's not a gendered issue. A lot of people have been bullied. A lot of people had to fake something they're not to fit in. I think every one of us can understand that. It's not because of male superiority that you're very obsessed with. And what it sounds like to me, Kenneth, is you got bullied for being gay, which I'm sorry, that's terrible if you did. It happens, sadly. I think I got bullied for being fat and ginger. And I've been bullied because I'm a woman, by mostly women, ironically. I get it. But you were really, really, really fixated on this idea of the manosphere and male superiority and male fragility and all this shit. Because I think you're trying to justify in your mind how you're superior to everyone else and how you're really a man. But the only one questioning whether or not you're a man is you. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are gay men that are still men and no one questions that they're men. So I think this is a you problem, honestly, Kenneth. Um, my relationship with Supergirl and her roster of peers, which includes legendary fictional women who simultaneously engaged in combat with both the patriarchy and intergalactic villains, runs deep. Yeah, it runs deeper for me, dude. As a woman, it reminds me of the communal relationship between so many women and queer men. Okay, we both belong to marginalized groups that are unwillingly socialized to accommodate the patriarchy at the expense of our mental health, self-esteem, and quality of life. That's a choice you make. Okay, I'm a woman. Let's talk about this, Kenneth. I'm a woman. I have had more shit thrown at me by extreme feminist women because I'm married and have kids than anything else. I don't get treated like that by my husband, my father, my family, friends, different men. I'm not treated like that. I can hold my own. I don't need their approval. The people who treat me like the worst and treat me the worst have been usually women. Because there's a lot of catty bitches out there. And I'm sorry, women can be way worse than men. And I'm sorry if you feel as a queer man. Well, you want to talk about marginalized groups. My personal favorite, Kenneth, is this one. I say I don't like the new Star Wars movies. To which men come in to mansplain me, the male feminists like yourself, come to mansplain me about why I'm wrong, and then call me insulting feminine terms in Spanish if I don't agree with them. And then, I get that. And then also the other thing I found out, a lot of people who are not straight white men understand what I'm saying here too, because I didn't have the proper opinion. Like I didn't like Supergirl, okay, for example. And if all these people did like Supergirl, what happens is when the people that they're saying that well, there's a woman and there's this representation and that representation, someone can identify as all those things. But their opinion is ignored and they are stepped over and they're marginalized twice because they don't have the proper opinion. So yes, Kenneth, I do understand. I also think that you are projecting a hell of a lot in this article. I'm sorry you think it's expensive your mental health. Not everything's a patriarchy. You're a dude. So actually, if it comes to the patriarchy, you'd be more aligned with them than you are women, even if you're gay, because you are a dude. Okay. The depiction of characters like Supergirl, Storm, Jean Grey, and Wonder Woman taught me a model of masculinity. Well, no, it didn't, because they're women that embrace vulnerability, empathy, confidence, and more coincidentally glamour. So you like those characters, you felt connected to those characters. That's fine. And then you learn from those characters, but that they didn't teach you masculinity. They taught you, femininity, and you adopted it into your version of masculinity, which is fine. They taught me that healthy masculinity doesn't have to be synonymous with the sexist ideologies that both subconsciously and more brazenly attempt to brainwash me into an incel. See, dude, your points are invalid because at the end of the day, this is all about you being insecure. You're an insecure dude. Let's be honest here. Kenneth is an insecure baby. And because he's insecure, he's personally offended that people didn't like Supergirl because he feels like that's how he identifies as Supergirl. He identifies with female characters, which there's nothing wrong with. You can be a guy who identifies with that. But because he feels that he identifies more that way, that means anybody who identifies with Superman or these other characters that are more masculine, they're the patriarchy. They're the incels. They're trying to turn me into an incel. Dude, they're not. Yeah, there are a lot of dicks out there. And I'll tell you what, I've met a lot of, like I said, most of the ones I've dealt with have been women. But you know what? If that's your version of masculinity, that's your version of masculinity. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. But going out there and writing these hit pieces, slamming on dudes who don't agree with you or who didn't like Supergirl and using it as your frame of incel, patriarchy, fragile masculinity. Like I said, the only person I'm hearing that's fragile masculinity in this article is you. I'm not trying to be a bitch to you, but that's what I'm getting from this. You're insecure in yourself and you're projecting all that into this article that everyone else in the manosphere is terrible, but you're the right kind of man. It's like the right kind of man is whatever you are for yourself. You don't need their validation, but they don't need your condemnation either. God, dude. You might want to seek therapy. That's why I believe that the evolving character Supergirl is crucial to combating the treacherous tentacles of the Manosphere. Again, dude, you're a dude. While I struggle to recall learning about this online world filled with anti-feminist ideologies, where prior this year I realized that it's always existed. Oh, bitch, please. Try being a fucking woman, okay? And then the last few years have been shit because it's mostly other women telling you that you're a toxic, sexist, internalized misogynist. And there's a lot of male feminists out there calling you foul words in Spanish and mansplaining you all the time because you don't have the proper opinion that a woman should have according to them. Those to me are more toxic traits than a dude who's worried about how he looks and if he lifts and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of guys, you know, they kind of can be dicks, but so can women. It's not just a gender specific thing. I'm sorry that people bullied you. I'm sorry that you feel insecure in yourself. Tentacles of the Manosphere. This is a recent, it's just a catch-all umbrella term that you're using instead of incel, misogynist, sexist. That's your replacement. That's all it is. And yes, are there toxic people out there? 100%. Is that the majority of people get labeled Manosphere? Hell no. Hell no. It's not. I'm tired of it. Like people my husband's probably getting labeled Manosphere and he's not like that at all. Just, you know, being a dude and feeling like you're like the head of the household. And like I said, every dynamic's different in every relationship. But not every guy out there, I would say a very small percentage would actually fall into this definition of Manosphere. Again, Supergirl still bombed. While I didn't grow up in the orbit of misogynistic podcast hosts spewing dangerous, uninformed rhetoric, while I didn't grow up in the orbit of misogynistic, again, he has got misogynistic, incel, and Manosphere all in the same article. Basically, what this translates to is dudes who I don't agree with who didn't like Supergirl because they're uninformed, as like me, who I'm enlightened because I think I'm a woman and I relate to women and I hate and I'm insecure about myself. That's all I'm hearing here, dude. That's all you're putting out this article thinking you're owning the judge, and all you're doing is owning yourself. Okay? Please do tell me how I'm a misogynistic podcast host because I thought Supergirl was mid. Please keep explaining to me as a woman how I know how I should feel as a woman and how female superhero, how they should relate to people. Please do go on because at the end of the day, you're still a guy. All right? Please, mansplain me some more. I have too many memories to count of adult men who've tried to impress their sexist ideas upon me. Try being a woman. I embrace a different kind of manhood, unmarred by the straight male gaze. Yes, we get it. You're a gay millennial who's insecure about yourself. I spent the last 3 decades of my life experiencing the throes of toxic masculinity, have claimed the lives and dreams of my queer siblings and women allies. Dude, I highly suggest you go talk to somebody. I really do. Because you are fully exaggerating this shit. Are there toxic people out there? Yes. Is it the level that you are making it sound like? Hell no. And trust me, you might be a gay man, and I get that, but you're still a dude. So I'm sure you get it. I'm sure you get harassed. I'm sure you get problems. But I guarantee you don't get as bad as a lot of women do. Because they're not hot for you to begin with, and then they're going to expect you to give them pretty and everything else on top of everything else. They just aren't. It's not the same thing. Embracing women superheroes gives me hope for a shift. Dude, be the change you want to see. Live by example. That's fine. But don't go lecturing everybody else about what men should be because you don't because your definition of being a man is because you need the definition of being a man to make you feel more like a man to be what you want to define yourself as. This is so stupid. Anyway, I do hope young boys see themselves in female superheroes and hopefully understand that male confidence does not equate to female suppression. Well, that's true. But, not all male confidence is female suppression. Like, all I'm seeing is black and white definitions by your point of view, but I'm not seeing the reality, which is all the gray. All right? And while I'm not relying solely on Supergirl to save the world and smash the patriarchy, she's capable of extraordinary feats of power. Not this one. She did shit. Sorry. Movie sucked. It was mid. Solid mid. I would have given it a higher score if they weren't labeling a Supergirl. Supergirl's officially gone from bad to worse. The movie arrived at the difficult task of following last summer's Superman. Blah, blah, blah. It's the worst DC movie on. It's the worst movie on record. It did shit. It's already been pulled from theaters. Supergirl, and honestly, as a woman, I don't think Supergirl is a glowing example of female superhero either. Wonder Woman over Supergirl. Girls are messy too. Yes, girls can be messy too. But Supergirl as a character was not drunk off her ass all the damn time. As like I said, if this was a Mad Max in space movie and she was just a girl who happened to have powers, I would have given it a much higher score and given it a better, more of a pass. But they named it Supergirl. But back to this, I just can't with this. Dude, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I think you need to get help. Not every guy who embraces masculine traits is the patriarchy, is fragilely masculine, is the manosphere, is toxic. Are there people out there? Yes. But they are not around every corner. You make it sound like it's so over the top about their existence and where they are. Did you get picked on because you're gay? Probably. And I'm sorry about that because I never stand for bullying on anybody. And I think it's absolutely shit to bully people because they're, different than you or gay or whatever. So I am sorry that happened to you. But a lot of us have been bullied for other reasons by men and women. Just some people are assholes. It's not indicative of the manosphere because of the Supergirl and because of what happened to you. And you're allowed to identify as you are as a man in any way, shape, or form you want to. You be you, you do you, that's fine. But that you don't get to tell everybody else that they're toxic and they don't know what they're talking about and they're the patriarchy, because they embrace like traditional male roles. There's nothing wrong with it. Both are valid. I think you really need to go talk to somebody or take a pill or something, because this is like ridiculous, dude. You wrote a whole article mad that you identify with more as a woman than a man, and that men make fun of you for it, but talking about their fragile masculinity. Everybody's just trying to get through life the best they can. And if you're making fun of other people, then don't do that because you're an asshole. But, most people are just trying. And not liking a superhero movie that's a female-led one does not make people the patriarchy, the manosphere, etc. But stop labeling everybody who disagrees with you over a stupid movie as a incel, fragile masculine, patriarchy bullshit. You can like the movie, that's fine. Most people didn't, including women. Get over it. Move on. If you like it and you enjoy it, good for you. But everybody else is allowed to have their opinions too. And it does not automatically make them a toxic male bad person. So there you go, guys. Kenneth, I wish you well. I hope that you find your meaning and what makes you happy, and that you understand that you're a man enough just as you are, and you don't need to put other people down to make yourself feel better, which is what you've been complaining that they did to you. Be better than them, I guess. So comment and subscribe. Tell me what you think. I will talk to you later. Bye.
Now funding on Kickstarter, a brand new set of Halloween mask pins, vintage style pins designed by me, Kneon. Check it out at halloween.ninja. That's halloween.ninja.